Back to the Dean Obeidallah Show, the last Friday of May, and it's the third hour, which means it's time for what just happened. As we look back at the insanity of the weekend, there were some big things. Joining us now, all returning champions. Andrea Jones-Rooy, who's been reborn, according to Instagram, a PhD in social science, specializing in complexity, a former professor at NYU, a comedian, a circus performer, and so much more. Good to see you, my friend.
Great to be back with my reborn self. Thank you for having me.
You'll have to explain what that means later. Nida Khan's back. Journalist, producer, everything she's written for Huffington Post, Essence, CNN, and more. How are you, Nitha?
I'm good, Dean. How are you doing?
Good. You look happy today.
I know. It's a rare moment. I think last time I was happy too.
I think it's summer. And look who's here again. Paul Elia, a nationally touring comedian, a longtime friend of mine. You can check out his special on YouTube, Detroit Player. You've seen him on shows like Hulu's Rami, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Netflix Lady Dynamite, and co-creator of the Low Key Comedy Show. Paul, great to see you.
What's up, player?
What's up, player? All right. So you guys are from all over the country. He's in LA. You guys are, Nitha's in New York. Andrea, you're reborn, so you could be anywhere. I'm not sure.
I'm transcendent. Thank you.
You're like the Matrix. You're out there. It just might not even be the real you. It could be.
I finally see the truth, Dean.
This is the AI. So let's talk about Donald Trump convicted of not one, not 10, not even 20 felonies, 3, 4, 34. I think there's got to be a sign like 3, 4 felonies. So I just want to go around the room about what were your visceral reaction when you heard the news. He went 34 and 0 or 0 and 34. Let's start with the reborn Andrea Jones-Rooy. What was your visceral reaction when you heard that news?
Well, that's why I'm so reborn, is I thought, oh my gosh, something in this country actually held this man to some kind of account. And I was already surprised when we even got him in the courtroom and started doing official proceedings. But I have been so jaded by Trump garbage for so long that I was fully expecting a hung jury or some kind of wishy-washy verdict. I was not expecting to be happy with the verdict. And so the first shock was, oh, I actually agree with this verdict. And then the second shock was, wow, I can't believe something right actually happened. And I actually went to the courthouse. I don't live too far from it, so I literally was the stereotypical New Yorker and hopped on my city bike and I went down and skulked around and watched MAGA people yell at other people, and it was really fun. Actually,
how many MAGA people were there?
Not that many. I got there probably a half hour after kind of the big verdict news came out, and it was packed. And it was a whole bunch of people in red hats, so I got nervous. But it turned out they were anti-Trump red hats. So way to go, reclaiming the red hat to all.
That's very interesting. Was it a different shade, just slightly?
Not really. No, I was steering clear, and then I realized they were yelling guilty, 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 and I was like, oh, I think I agree with these people.
I would have went with like a different color, like a maroon or
no, I know,
like
or
one
like a
shade off. So people like we're mocking. Don't you get it? Because you were the same one. Like, are you with them or not? All right, so let's go to Nida Khan. I was kind of surprised that he didn't pay off someone in the jury like John Gotti, but nothing happened. Nida, what was your visceral reaction when you heard 34 convictions?
I have the same reaction. Honestly, I can admit when I was wrong because that almost never happens. But I predicted, even on your show, I think last time I predicted that it was either going to be a hung jury or he was going to get off or something was going to happen. So I was very, very, very shocked, pleasantly shocked, I should say, because it's also a rarity that we see those in power and the rich and powerful actually held accountable. So it was a great moment to see that happen. Now, whether or not he's going to do any actual time or what happens on July 11th, we'll see. But I was shocked. I was really, truly surprised.
Paul, what do you think? Is there a chain gang in Trump's future? Like just sitting on the side of the road, like going by on the highway and go, oh my God, was that Trump? Like picking up the garbage in the orange jumpsuit with others? Is that possible?
He blended with the suit,
I was a little curious. Like, I didn't know if he got a felony for every second he was having sex.
Oh, for 34, that was it. It was that fast. So
yeah, I mean, this guy is, I love Shaquille O'Neal, so 34 number means a lot to me.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, 34 counts, and I was watching them read it on NBC. The woman, she was like, count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. And then she just kept going.
20.
And I didn't know if she was going to stop. Honestly, I thought they were reading Diddy's verdict.
Even before he's charged. But so you thought they could just keep going over 34, like 57, 60. Yeah.
And everyone, I think, made him stronger in the eyes of his supporters, because the more guilty he is, the more people rally behind him. Like, his supporters have like the Incredible Hulk effect, to where the more mad they get, the more powerful they become.
So you think in the big picture, it makes his base more animated. I also think it's interesting. A lot of their supporters were saying, like Marco Rubio, he's won the election now because in their view, in their mushy brain view, mushy Mike Brain, someone undecided, like, I'm not sure Biden or Trump. Oh, that guy got convicted of 34 felonies. That's my guy. Like, I don't know if independent people like that, but I think exactly what you're saying. His base, they're worked up. They love it even more. And I don't quite get it. The victimhood, but they do, and he does, right? That's what it's about.
Yeah, and also it's like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Louise.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna mention that, like, oftentimes, like, even like if a musician or an actor or someone like gets in trouble and like the more like, and let's say there's like a gun charge or some sort of other felony charge, like their fans and supporters immediately have like free insert name. And they just rally behind him. So his supporters, like the more trouble he gets into, it's even more of a reason for them to leave the house.
It galvanizes them.
Wow. Meanwhile, if I got in trouble, that I'd be cut loose from everything, like in a second. SiriusXM would say goodbye. My fiance would say goodbye. People are like, nah, just not this. We're not going to do it. But
a lot of people taken to the streets when Dean loses his.
And here's the irony. I'm not even kidding. I live close enough where I can see York Avenue, and every day I would see his car when he came from the courthouse. He'd go down the FDR. He'd come up and then go to 57th Street and his crime lair, Trump Towers, right over here. So every day his car. And yesterday I was staring for it, but the show started because I want to take a picture of convicted felon Donald Trump in his car. That's how close me and the Donald are. Like he's right there. We're like neighbors. We go to the same Gristedes. That's a food store here in New York. We don't go to the same Gristedes at all. So Andrea, so how do Democrats message this in a way to maybe get a few Democrats happy? Because I have to be honest, last night on the show, the word I would use is giddy. People were giddy. They were calling it giddy. They were so excited. But how did the Democrats use this to get our base animated and excited?
I know. I mean, the two groups that I care about are regular Democrats who we just need to galvanize them to vote. And I hope that this does help exactly that, where it's like, well, we now know for sure he's a felon. But on the other hand, who are the Democrats who are like, he's okay. I voted for Biden, but I'm going to go back. Maybe this does the thing where we all forgot how bad Trump was, and this will remind Democrats. So that's good. But I'm more focused on I don't believe anyone is undecided, but the people who may or may not show up to vote, like the same people who didn't show up to support Hillary back in 2016, because I'm still not over that. I'm worried about those people. And my hope is that putting the big label of felon on this will help. But I don't know. I'm too burned, as I said, to be optimistic for this country, because these aren't really the big heavy trial. I mean, yeah, he's a felon, and in my mind, that's it. He shouldn't run for office. I love the fact that he can't go to other countries. I think he shouldn't be allowed to vote, because I think that's what Republicans don't want felons to vote anyway. All that stuff. Sure. But the heavy trials, right? Like the election stuff from 2020, that's not going to come in time. And I feel like that would sway people more, whoever these middling people are, who are apparently our whole future rides on.
Look, people still like Trump after the attempted coup and January 6th attack.
Yeah, exactly.
And his pledging to pardon the terrorists. Yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah. Like, this is a convicted felony. That's nothing. It's kind of fun. Netha, what about you? You know, we've talked about Gaza in the past and stuff like that and how that's impacted your view of Biden. Does the conviction of Donald Trump play any role in how you look at the election?
Yeah, I think the last time I was on your show, caused a little bit of trouble. Maysoon and I caused a little trouble, but we were just,
Paul knows Maysoon.
Speaking from the heart and speaking the truth and providing that other perspective that's almost always left out of the mainstream conversation. You know, it's funny. Yesterday, I tweeted something to the effect of, finally, something has united centrists and liberals for a moment. Like their united hatred of Donald Trump, or just finally being happy that he's been held accountable. And we had that brief moment yesterday. And I found it interesting that today Biden did that press conference earlier, announced the work that he's been doing, or, you know, that he's been working with different people to secure a ceasefire and trying to put the pressure on Hamas and trying to actually, to me, it was honestly just like a big PR effort, because he and his team know that they have lost so much support because of his stance on Gaza and everything that's going on, the tens of thousands of civilians that have been killed, the starvation, the inhumanity. So it was really interesting that on the day after these guilty charges, he chose to do that. I was like, okay, noted. I see what they're doing here. But it's all going to depend on what happens over the next couple of months. Is there in fact a ceasefire that is secured? Because then he can win back some of those people. There are some who will never vote for him because of what is happening in Gaza, and I totally understand that. And I understand when people get discouraged and don't want to vote, although I don't advocate for that, because your vote is all that you have. That's all that you have to, hold people accountable and to also voice your own opinion. So I don't ever say people should stay home and not vote, but I'm very well aware that there's going to be a huge swath of the population that is going to do that. And Team Biden, if they want to win, they really, really must work harder to win back that diverse coalition, those young supporters that are so disaffected and dismayed right now. So yes, they're happy that, Trump is convicted. They don't like Trump, but they're also not enthusiastic about Biden at this moment. And there's a lot of work to do if he wants to win them back.
And 40% of Americans don't vote, and even the big turnout elections. I mean, just on general. I mean, it's a huge turnout. 61% voted. Like, it's kind of sad. So Paul, do you think for the Biden team and for Democrats, maybe emphasizing Trump's convicted felon status, maybe using humor could help them? Like, for example, like they have a debate coming up and Biden might say, well, the debate's coming up if Trump's parole officer will allow him to leave the state, like that kind of stuff. Is there things to do? Can Biden wear, like, instead of a 46 hat, like a 34 hat for how many felonies Trump has been convicted of? Like 34, brother, that kind of, like, is there a place for humor in the seriousness of all of this that cuts through?
I mean, of course, but also, like, we knew he was guilty before the verdict even came.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't understand, like, why people need evidence when their evidence was kind of already there. It's like we're waiting for, like, the official word, but in the eyes of everybody, it's like we all know. And it's like, I mean, this makes us feel less crazy. And again, it doesn't change anything, which is like there's still massive support for him. Still, he uses those things like, this is rigged, this doesn't make any sense, they're being misogynist, like whatever word he can use to show that this is wrong, and people will just rally behind that. So it's like, I do think humor and whatever it is, there's so much humor in this already. For me, I would say Biden's definitely lost a lot of support, especially from the out of American community, with the way that he's viewing this this genocide in Gaza. So, and I just feel this is going to be a very difficult road for him, and I think Kanye has a chance.
Kanye? I didn't even heard his name in a while.
I think he can dust off.
Has he been out there campaigning? I saw a picture with him and his new wife. It was just up yesterday or something like that.
But that's actually his running mate.
That's his running mate. He's running with his wife. Why not? Keep it very kitchen table type of thing. The person's always there. Hey, what's up? I'm going to go outside, VP. I was hoping
Melania wasn't there with Trump.
Not at all. Melania.
Where is she? In a bunker somewhere?
I was hoping the Central Park Five would put a full page ad in the New York Times calling for Donald Trump to get maximum punishment. As much, because he did the death penalty thing. It's interesting Melania wasn't there. And also, to Paul's point, look, Donald Trump had an affair with Stormy Daniels 10 years before, pays her off for the first time ever a week before the election. Everyone got it. Like, there's no, like, there's no spin. They didn't try to even count it. Like, we did. It was bookkeeping. We just finally got around to it 10 years later, a week before the election during Access Hollywood. Come on. Like, everyone knows.
Even I pay my bills faster than that.
Especially if you're involved with the campaign, right? And
that's right.
So this is kind of, I'm chatting with our friends, Andrea, Jones-Rooy, Paul, Elia, and Nida Khan. So Paul mentioned the rigged verdict stuff. On Biden today, Andrea was saying that, well, this undermines our justice system. But when you take a step back, what does MAGA believe in? They reject the elections when they lose. They reject the criminal justice system when it comes to their January 6th terrorists. Now they reject the jury system. I'm not sure what part of this experiment we lived through that they're on board with, other than Donald Trump. Whatever he says goes. This is unlike anything we've seen in America. I've seen on the History Channel, though. but I've not seen it in America. And this
I've
is all
seen
going to be
it.
on the History Channel. In fact, this show,
Yeah.
it's going to be on the History Channel. One day, like, wow, they were just talking calmly while a fascist movement was building right beneath them.
Yeah, how could they have not gone to the streets and screamed and cried? And it's like, well, I looked around and sent a few photos to my aunt and then I left. But I did my part.
So, I mean, what do they believe in? What does MAGA believe in? It doesn't seem I'm not even kidding. It doesn't seem like they believe in the Constitution, the foundations of our system. A jury system is one of the big things in the Constitution that made us different from the monarchy that the founding fathers and the framers fought a revolutionary war for.
No, they truly, they believe in nothing but Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has convinced them that he is the ultimate victim and that every single thing that's bad that happens to him is the result of some kind of like deep state or rot or cabal that's going to kill him, and it's all pedophiles and it's all this horrible stuff, and none of it's real. And the shocking thing is that he's managed to convince a huge proportion of Americans. Like, this is all crazy stuff that very few Americans should believe, but it's like much of the Republican Party. I know of one or two Republicans who don't agree with all this stuff, but that's probably it. And it's absolutely nuts. I mean, even downtown at the courthouse yesterday, the people who were Trump folks had three things, all of them. There were probably only like 5 or 6 out of hundreds of people. They had a huge American flag. So somehow they do believe in America, even though, as you said, they're against every single institution that we have. They had a MAGA hat, like the red hat. Okay. And then they all had shirts or banners or posters with his face on it. Like, it's such a cult of personality. It's not about what he stands for. It's not about what he's trying to do. It's about him and him alone, right? Like, when we go out, if you're supporting Biden or you're supporting any candidate in the United States, you're very rarely holding up pictures of their faces. Maybe Obama in the first election.
I hate Obama t-shirt. That's true. I did.
With his face on it, right? Yeah.
Sure. It said Obama's going to knock you out. It was a
Nice.
play on the song by LL Cool J.
Really yeah. That's good. Yeah, but it's just him, and he's the victim, and he reminds me, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but he reminds me of Swifties in the sense that it's like, if you're a fan of Taylor Swift, like, she can do no wrong. I like her music. I follow her, whatever. But I get nervous when anyone finds someone.
Say anything about Taylor Swift. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
I can't do it. Like, she does. And what you say one thing wrong about her and everyone freaks out. Like, Trumpers are the same thing. Like, they see him as a god. That's truly all they believe in, is whatever he says. And the nonsense that he rambled for 35 minutes today.
Oh my God. By the way, Nita, they had a big flag outside the courthouse 2 days ago. And at events, it says they're flying. It says Trump or death. And my question is, do we get to choose? Like, is it up to us to go like, we're going to go with play option B? Like, where does it come down? Like, but think about, that's the cult of personality. I thought the world of Obama. I never had a flag Obama or death. If he had lost, I'm like, well, he lost. We're going to find someone else next time.
Right.
They are literally Trump or death.
Yeah, they're absolutely ride or die, but I would just disagree just a little bit on this point. Whereas nothing controversial, nothing crazy.
Here goes.
In the sense that they do agree with him and his policies, right? So they, like, the MAGA and actually much of the Republican Party want to hold on to a certain status quo, a certain vision of America that they believe is correct, and taking us back in time to whenever that is, pre-1964 or whatever have you, right? And that's what you're seeing across the country, even with a rollback of reproductive rights, voting rights, DEI programs. You could go down the list of stuff that is being repealed, that's being rolled back, that's being attacked. So it is their version of America, and they see Trump as the spokesperson that embodies that. And that is why they are ride or die hard. He's their guy, and they're going to believe him no matter what. And what Paul was saying earlier, to the point of a backlash, like, I do worry about that as well, where because of this, his supporters, I don't know if I believe those numbers that they were giving out on their fundraising. I mean, come on,
35 million?
Right. I don't know if I'm going to believe that.
The guy just got convicted of falsifying business records.
Yeah.
That's the guy you're going to believe?
Right.
I know the court meeting is like, this just in, Trump says he raised $35 million. The guy was convicted of falsifying business records involving campaign donations.
Right.
Oh, let's take his word. The corporate media just sucks so bad. It makes, I'm telling you that it's just, sorry.
Right. I don't believe those numbers either, of course not. But I do believe that people did donate because of that.
Sure,
and his supporters are going to be even more emboldened and energized to come out. So it's like they're riled up and ready to go. And meanwhile, on this side, Biden is doing everything to go against his base. 80% of Democrats want a ceasefire. Now today, finally, almost 8 months later, he gave this press conference talking about, we're reaching this phase of a ceasefire and blah, 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 blah. So,
I think it was interesting. He said in the press conference that I'm saying that, and people, you have to tell your leaders to go along with this, like telling us, like who am I going to talk to? Like, do I have the phone number for Hamas? Hey guys, this is the time. Take this deal. Like, I have no connections. Who has the phone to Netanyahu? Who doesn't listen to Biden or anyone? He listens. He doesn't care what the EU says. Doesn't care what the ICJ says. He says whatever. Right. Paul, has there ever been a politician that you ever wore their shirt, or even a celebrity that you'd almost be like that person or death, but not literal, but that's that kind of emotional connection with?
I don't wear a whole lot of celebrity merch.
Okay. Not even your own? Do you have your own?
I mean, I'll wear, like I'm wearing my own merch right now.
Right.
Nice.
But it's like, it's just interesting, like thinking about like MAGA, like I think it's less of a political movement and ideology. And now it's just become more of like a vibe. It's like when people say I'm free spirit, it's like you attach all these things to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And like when people like, they say, oh, probably someone who likes crystals and meditates and goes to yoga. Like when I hear MAGA, I just think about someone who texts in all caps. Like
all the time. That's
even its logo, it's all caps. It's like it's just loud. It's like you are gonna hear what I have to say. And like when things come from that space, it's the opposite of free spirit, actually. And it's like, I was even talking to some of my buddies about this, because a lot of my buddies they're friends of mine that I grew up with, and I'm able to like, I don't really talk politics with them, but like when anything Trump related happens, they'll like call me and they'll be like, can you believe what they're doing to him, bro? He didn't even do anything. And, and these are people who just read headlines and won't really review details.
Right.
And so I just feel like this guy has completely taken the America and used it in his own slogan. Like even using the name America in his slogan and selling that as merch and just profiting off that, like, is just, in one, it's like very sad, but also at the same time, it's like, wow, someone can get away with this?
Yeah.
Haven't we
it's
all
like this guy
learned
is clearly dancing through lasers. He can dance through lasers, but he's not really doing it gracefully. Like you'll see somebody like really dance through lasers. Like he's just walking through the lasers,
and
then
somehow
it's just
it
like,
doesn't.
Yeah, and somehow he's like, yeah, nothing happened.
Just bounces off.
I'm the best with lasers. Look, I hope we'll see how it plays out. We'll know in the next months or so if it affects the polls or not, and it might not. I think if it is going to, it's going to be up to the Democrats not to rely on corporate media, because corporate media will forget this in a week and go back to polling. Can you believe Biden's still trailing by one? They don't care about anything but a horse race, because it gets people to click in. But so the team Biden has to do something. Now, this week they tried to get press. They sent Bobby De Niro, who I like Bobby De Niro a great deal. They sent him to the courthouse with Harry Dunn and Michael Fanone. And I know Harry a little bit. Michael been on once the show, but I know Harry a little bit. But what I will say about De Niro, I like him first as an actor, plus I'm half Italian. But I met him like 2 months ago. My friend Glenn Kirshner has this Justice Matters event, and he had it at Robert De Niro's place. And it was only like 50 people. And De Niro loves MSNBC. And I went up, and he really said, he goes, I know you. He goes, I know you. He goes, you're good. You're good. That's what he said to me. Robert De Niro said, I was good. And I was like, I'm like, did you just hear that? Robert De Niro said, you're good. Because he sees me on MS. He doesn't know I'm a comedian. He just sees me on MS talking about politics. And he likes that I'm straightforward and I don't hold back. And I say crazy stuff that that other people don't say, but he believes too. And I was like, that I win. I win the event, folks. They're like, Dean, put your arms down. You didn't win anything. I'm like, okay. But I felt like he literally said, you're good. Like out of a movie. What do you think of that, Paul? I had Bobby De Niro say, you're good.
Man, I mean, I think that should be on your resume.
That should be my name.
Your LinkedIn tagline.
Top of the resume.
That should be my new name of my show.
How many times did he say you? Was he like you?
Like that?
Good.
Like that.
Good.
He really did. We were very close in proximity because he goes, I've seen you on MS. And there's this weird post. He goes, you're good. You're good.
Oh, good.
Like, oh my God. I was like, someone videotaped this up. Let's do this again. Take two. Go, Mr. De Niro. And that kind of thing. So, and we chatted for like 10 minutes. Like it was a small gathering. We really
Is he a nice guy in addition to flattering you?
Great guy. Greatest guy ever.
Would you say he's a good fella?
He's a good fella. I'm half Sicilian. We talked, we connected. He vouched for me.
Say thank you.
I'm a friend of his now because I want you to meet Dean Obeidallah. He's a friend of ours. It's like, I know where we're going. That's a whole Goodfellas.
All right.
Okay, that's just me dreaming of my. If
We'll
it
see
wasn't
you
for
in the next
9/11,
movie.
I'd just be Italian guy, folks. Just so you know that I would be
That's
hanging
right,
out downtown with the Goodfellas, be having cappuccino and yelling at women. Andrea Jones-Rooy is here, Nida Khan and Paul Elia. So let's talk about but De Niro going. Let me ask you. You went down there, Andrea.
Yeah.
There wasn't that many Trump supporters. They were yelling at De Niro. They were calling him names and stuff. He dealt with it. He was shaking in the beginning, not shaking. He was like it broke his concentration. Then he focused and he delivered what he want. But they were right there. They were calling Harry Dunn and Michael Fanone cops who were beaten up by MAGA, calling them traitors. Yeah. And he goes, I don't even know what to say to you. This guy fought for our nation, fought for us.
Yeah.
So was De Niro a good choice? I think it was, but I like the guy.
I like De Niro too. I think it's a great choice. And I think he's someone who can handle that kind of crap. Not that I want to put him in the line of such a thing, but I think there are a lot of celebrities at his level of like A-list, whatever, who would not have, they would crumple immediately and get ushered off or wouldn't have even showed up in the
Taylor Swift, how she would have done?
I don't think she would have done great. I really don't. I'll say it. Come at me, Swifties. I don't think that was her move or her place. But I will say, like I said, there were only like 4 or 5 MAGA people that I could see outward. And I feel like there are very few subtle MAGA people. But they were all at the center of like a screaming match, each one of them. And one of them spat on a reporter as I was walking by, and that caused a whole fuss. So like the few that were there, they're just like Paul said, it's like they're writing in all caps. They're just one volume and one attitude, and they're just mad and they're yelling, and Trump is tapping.
Are they yelling at each other? I mean, it's just like a yelling bots. It's like they're just screaming.
I wish we could just like move them and get them to just scream at each other. But it was any anti-Trump person. I don't even really know what to call it. Like, it's like mostly Democrats, but like most New Yorkers who were down there, like would make the mistake of being like, hey man, calm down. And then he would turn and like yell at them. And then someone else would be like, that's not rigged. And he would yell at them and yeah, all this like racist stuff that he was yelling. And there was a whole group of people at one point shouting. It was really great. Like, it was a big group. These are the people that I thought were MAGA because they were wearing red, but they weren't. And they kept yelling, count 1. And everyone would yell guilty, count 2, guilty, like scream it. And they couldn't get all the way to 34. It took 3 tries that I saw because a MAGA person with a flag or a banner would come charging in and start like swinging around. And then the cops would have to, like, it was stupid. It's just the whole thing is stupid. So De Niro, what a legend for showing up at this complete.
He's good. He's good. Bob
Very good.
He's very good.
Yeah.
So
and somebody I think was like cursing at him, and he cursed back, and I was like, all right now.
It's on.
I love De Niro too, but honestly, like I wish the Dems had done this earlier. Like to me, like all right, like okay, it's cool you're doing it now, but this kind of stuff should have been done a long, long time ago. Because I know a lot of progressives and people like me have said that we wanted the Dems to be, to find their backbone and to be fighters and take it to them where they are. So as long as it doesn't look, faked or coerced or something like that, I'm okay with it as long as it's authentic. And somebody like De Niro is authentic, as we all agree. So.
He's been mad for a while. Paul, is there a better celebrity that you can think of that the Democrats could try to get? It can't be Taylor Swift, but someone who sort of conjures up the toughness that Democrats want to see in terms of fighters and getting out there?
Oh, yeah. I think they did. I thought Joe Pesci was going to just pull up from the crowd and just start just doing
whacking
a scene.
People?
Like, that's all I was hoping for.
Like he starts digging a hole. We're going to like in Casino, like digging a hole, or like he's gone. I like Pesci a lot too. He's a Jersey Italian guy. All right, let's take a break. We're gonna continue our conversation. We have to talk about Jerry Seinfeld. What's the deal with toxic masculinity with Jerry Seinfeld? A lot of weird stuff going on out there, and the blame your wife strategy is big, and they actually go perfectly, these two subjects. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more of what just happened after this. Ready? We're coming right back. And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. It's still Friday, May 31st. Andrea Jones-Rooy, Nida Khan, and Paul Elia are still with us here. We have Andrea Jones-Rooy, a social scientist, comedian, a lot of things. Nida Khan, journalist. Paul, very funny comic. Check out his YouTube special, Detroit Player. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's very funny. So let's talk about this blame your wife strategy by powerful men, which is kind of interesting. It sounds like something Trump would do in a second. He hasn't done it yet. I was waiting for it. There are 2 different examples. One is Sam Alito, Supreme Court Justice, on his house, a short time after January 6th attack. Someone flew an upside down U.S. flag, which was also something the Stop the Steal people did. And his response is, My wife did. He said she's fond of flags, which is a statement you'd never think you'd hear in your life. Anyone would put that in writing. Then the irony here is she's a private citizen. She can make her own decisions. And I've always respected her right to do so. And this is the guy that wrote the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, taking away women's right to choose control of their own body. But when it comes to flags, so let's start Andrea Jones-Rooy, the reborn one.
Yeah,
what do you think about Sam Alito? A woman can have a choice about a flag,
That's
but
right.
not reproductive freedom.
That's right. I wonder if I put my aborted fetus on a flagpole, if he would be okay with that. Like, I think that might be the way forward. No, it's hypocritical as ever. I also recently read that apparently a lot of women in the South who are anti-abortion didn't realize that a pregnancy termination is the same thing as an abortion. And they would go in for a termination and then be surprised that they were denied because that's an abortion, but they didn't think that it was. So I'm not even
What
sure.
did they think an abortion was?
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing.
Yeah. I'm not even sure anyone knows what they're talking about at all. So, flags at least are something that these people can get their heads around, like everyone knows what a flag is. So maybe that's why they're just allowed to have choices there. Because they
Fly
know.
your flag, but
Right.
just don't you can't choose your own choice for your body. Like there's
That's
a
right.
limit.
That's right.
Doesn't make, and Nita, what is your take on this? And we'll get to Robert Menendez in a second from New Jersey, my home state, but that Alito is blaming his wife for the flag. And he actually sent his letter. It was very legal. Like we jointly own the house, so I can't make her take the flag down. Like you're one of 9 people on the Supreme Court. You've struck down laws and you can't convince your wife to remove a flag. We're supposed to believe this. And also we take a step back. He said his wife put the flag, the U.S. America under distress because she had a dispute with her neighbor. Like I've argued with neighbors. I've never been like, you know what? Wait here. I'm going to put a flag up that shows America's under distress because the whole country's effed up if we're having this dispute. So Nitha, what is your take on all this?
If I'm not mistaken, didn't those neighbors call the cops or something on
They did
them
weeks
or
later.
something happened? I forgot the details.
The timing was all
Something
off
happened
from
and they
his
called the
excuse.
cops and whatever the dispute was. I got to go back and read about that. But I agree with Andrea. I mean, it's so pathetic, hypocritical, but also not surprising in the least. Rich, powerful men blaming their wives, and it's just a way to skirt responsibility, to still maintain his power over everything, still rule on these cases, still sit on the bench, and still ruin America. And that's where we are.
So Paul, it's my flag, my choice. That's what we're going with from now on. With the, it's not my body, my choice. My flag, my choice. Samuel Alito will sign off on that. But what do what's the idea too of these guys? And Robert Menendez, a senator in New Jersey, is on trial right now. The media's not even covering it, but he's a U.S. senator, literally on trial, less than 100 yards from where Trump's on trial, because the state and federal courthouse aren't far from each other. And he's like, my wife, Nadine, is the one who got involved in trading political favors. And that's how come I had a good gold bullion in my closet. It wasn't me. It was my wife and all this stuff. And there were some Arabs involved in this too, which is just perfect, isn't it?
It is so funny that it involves halal meat of all things.
Halal meat.
We have arrived. We have arrived.
Egyptians were involved. I think Rami Youssef had a cousin maybe involved in all this, Paul. Rami. So what is it? I mean, would you blame you're engaged now, aren't you? Did I read that correctly on Instagram?
Yeah. I was gonna say we're not married yet, so I can't blame her
Okay.
for anything. Once we're officially married, then I can pass the blame.
Right.
And
You can't
until
really blame
then,
your fiance because if you blame your fiance or girlfriend or there's no accountability there. But if she's your wife,
You're
it's
stuck.
different.
Yeah.
he has to live
so
here, right?
which is why I want to get married,
Right.
Oh,
so I
Just
can
so you
put
have
the
someone
blame
to
on
blame?
somebody. But also, like, I don't know a whole lot about flags, and I'm a
Go
little
on.
embarrassed about my flag knowledge.
Okay.
So I started to do some research, and it says that it's not illegal to have an upside down American flag, but it shouldn't be inverted except as a signal of dire distress.
Mm-hmm.
This man is in pain. Like, this is a clear cry for help. Like, this is like when Melania was doing like hidden messages through her Twitter.
right.
This is his version of that. So I just think really what this Supreme Court justice is saying is that he just wants to hang with the boys.
with Clarence Thomas and the other guys on the court with like that's fun. Or maybe it's the wife going, this guy, you don't know, he's a monster, which we would believe in a second. If she came
But
out and
she
said that was
wears
about
the flag in their relationship.
she wears the flag in their relationship.
Yeah, like, you know, like if it's, she goes, this is how the flag is gonna be. Like, it's like she probably made him hang it up.
Somebody yesterday after the Trump verdict had a meme of Alito's house upside down, and they were like, now the entire house is upside down.
There's a whole new
hilarious.
flag. Look, if you're flying like a Dallas Cowboys flag, I'm going to be upset. You know, that's what I hate the Cowboys. So like that kind of thing. I'm like, you want to fly the upside down flag? I think it's interesting too, the idea that she wears the flag. Like she's over there. She's like, you're going to put this flag up right now. He said, no, you're going to hang it upside down. And I'm with the Stop the Steal. He's like, no, you can't do that. I'm a Supreme Court justice. She goes, you shut up about the justice stuff. You'll flag that flag right now. That kind of stuff. Like, don't throw that in my face. And then he comes back in it because he said in the letter, he asked her numerous times to take it down. And she said no. And she goes, just see her sitting there. Like she runs the house, like Paul's saying. And he walks in and she goes, you're not going to ask me about this flag again, are you? Like, don't go get me a beer. That kind
The Supreme Court stuff is worth nothing here. That's amazing.
It's kind of interesting.
That's what I was saying, Dean. Like, what I think is going on with politicians, like, I think with male politicians, it's like they're just like the spokesman for their wives.
That would be fine if women ran everything and we didn't know. I'd rather they be like front and center about it, but perhaps deep down. So Nitha, what do you buy that? Are women really running these households where the men are? Like Menendez and Alito are just like the show figures, but meanwhile it's Mrs. Alito. He calls her Mrs. Alito. She has no first name. And so Nadine, who's Menendez's wife, he calls her Mrs. Alito in the letter. I'm not even kidding. She has no first name. She's owned by him when they got married. She's mine. It's Mrs. Alito. She has no identity. So what do you think? Could it be the women really running them, or these are men who are just pathetic?
Well, it's absolutely men who are pathetic. But let's not also, I want to bring up somebody else's wife too. Let's not forget Clarence Thomas's wife.
Oh yeah.
Her shady dealings
Ginny.
and she's done, so it's just, honestly, Dean, it's your typical corruption in politics. That's all it is across the board. And it's just trying to skirt responsibility and not be held accountable. And that's why, just to go back to Trump again, I was very, very shocked that for once, somebody rich and powerful was held to account, which almost never happens. And I wish that other former presidents, including George W. and Cheney and that entire regime was held accountable for unnecessary wars. I wish we could hold even more of our elected officials accountable, maybe even possibly the current president, which I know, oh my God, we can't criticize him. By the way, I had tweeted something about Biden, I think it was last week, when he came out and said something about the ICJ ruling or the ICC statement. Sorry.
Yeah, they were going to potentially do an arrest warrant of Netanyahu.
Right, exactly. He had some sort of ridiculous statement, and I tweeted, once again, if Biden loses in November, don't blame the voters. And you should have seen the backlash and the first of all, that tweet got almost 1 million views. So obviously it struck a nerve.
That's unbelievable.
A lot of people.
Right, brag. Exactly. I like that. You should open with that.
I've been on Twitter since 2009. I think that was my most viewed tweet ever. So obviously people agree with that, but then it struck a nerve with some people who are supposed Democrats and on this side of the aisle and saying things like, we can't wait for you to be deported, sent to a country.
Wow.
Blah, 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 be banned.
I may have been drinking when I wrote that. I'm sorry.
They were all you. You made a whole bunch of fake accounts.
I have all these fake accounts. Paul,
34 Dean accounts.
30. Nitha invoked Iraq, so we have to go to Paul for a block here. Paul, what do you think? George W. Bush, war criminal?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you consider a war criminal, like killing over 1 million Iraqis and dissembling government and not taking any accountability for the actions of millions of innocent people murdered. Like, it depends. Like, some people will say that's not a war crime.
Right. It's just war. It's just
some people
Lindsey
be like,
Graham
yeah,
say that's war.
And it's like, I think the definition of war has changed. Because war used to mean something, but now war is just different. It's like what's going on in Palestine. Like, people are like, oh, this is a war. And it's like, that's what wars are now?
Yeah.
Wars are just like millions of I know like in Palestine right now, it's like, nearly 50,000 killed, and I don't even know how many people injured, and they're all
hundreds of
innocent
thousands of
people.
injured.
That's
Right.
a war.
No.
And dropping 2,000-pound bombs on
Right.
it.
If what Netanyahu has done is not a war crime, we should just retire the term.
Yeah.
Like there's, and I tell people, if you, objectively speaking, it's war crimes. Collective punishment of a whole civilian population is a textbook war crime. I'm not making that. That's one of them. But I tell people, if you want to defend war crimes, go ahead, but just don't insult my intelligence and not say they're war crimes. Even Biden in December said what Netanyahu is doing. He used the term indiscriminate bombing. Biden knew what he was saying. That's a war crime. Indiscriminate bombing under international law. I'm a lawyer. Believe me on this. It is a war crime. The starvation of people, both Senator Chris Van Hollen and Senator Bernie Sanders. So that's a war crime. So what Netanyahu's done is a war crimes. And what you were getting at, Nitha, was Biden, I was away last week, said, well, I'm going to work with the Republicans to protect Netanyahu and sanction the International Criminal Justice Court. I'm like, why are you saying this? Let him be tried. We want Trump tried, so he doesn't do the crimes again and no one else repeats them. You should let Netanyahu have to answer for it. And if he's not convicted, so be it. But if he's convicted, so no one does that again. Nobody. That's the thing. And Hamas leaders too. You can charge them the same way they're going to charge the Hamas leaders. Of course they should. That's
actually
fine.
3 of the charges were against Hamas.
That's the way it should be.
Netanyahu. And, Biden is basically essentially talking out of both sides of his mouth.
I know.
Right?
It's very interesting.
So, and it's on the one hand, like we're stopping every single ceasefire resolution in the UN. We're still sending weaponry, even bypassing Congress. We're sending billions of dollars. But then you're saying, oh, we want a ceasefire. We want Netanyahu to take greater care to protect civilians. But he's doing the exact opposite and like skirting every single international norm. And he's openly saying like his actions are almost like a big FU to Biden as well.
I know.
Just openly going against everything Biden is saying too, in terms of any even remote pressure or anything on him. And let's remember, it's not really much of anything, but even just a little bit of verbal anything, and he's doing of that. So really, like, why are you supporting this guy? And I go back to what I said the last time, that this is the Democratic Party, Democratic supporters, they're anti-war. Obama campaigned on being an anti-war president and won. That is what the base is on this side. You are not the GOP. We're not the warmongers. So you got to do what your voters want.
So,
yeah,
yes, Paul.
And one thing, Dean, I want to add is like, you mentioned the thing about like George Bush and what happened in Iraq. It's like, I think the IDF is trying to Iraq Philistine.
Yeah.
And the difference is that there was no cameras to show what was happening. So this happened before and has happened several times. It's just the difference is like we're seeing it now. It's the same thing with like, the murder of George Floyd. It's like there were so many George Floyds that we didn't know about, we didn't see. It's just now we're seeing it. So it's like, now that we're all seeing it, now everyone, like
people being humanized
about this. Yeah.
So you have to ban TikTok. You got to ban TikTok because you can't let people see it.
Exactly. Now all of a sudden they want to stop it.
Right.
And it's like, instead of politicians signing like ceasefire deals, like we have politicians signing bombs.
Nikki Haley. I didn't put her on the list of topics to talk about, but you're absolutely right. Finish it, says Nikki Haley. There are no good Republicans. So last topic, I want to touch on Jerry Seinfeld because he's a comedian and we are comedians, some of us. And he said in an interview this week, speaking of, he goes,
I didn't like that. Some of us, Dean.
I didn't mean any other way. Nitha's a journalist.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw her Twitter. She has 1 million impressions.
Yeah, right. You should be.
That's more than my comedy special.
Here's what Jerry Seinfeld said in an interview, which I liked him better when he just told jokes. I got to be honest. Jerry, little by little, is grating on me. He said that he's talked about the JFK era. There was Muhammad Ali, Sean Connery, and you go down the list. That's a real man. I want to be like that someday when he was young, he said, but I miss a dominant masculinity. Yeah, I get the toxic part. Thank you. But still, I like a man. And I'm like, is there another message here you're trying to tell us? Is there something else going on here? Because I'm reading his quote. Like, if you just want to say you like men, God bless you. Have fun. What's the deal with men? They're masculine. I want to hold them. go ahead, knock yourself out. But if you're going to say, what's the deal with toxic masculinity and where is it? What the F is wrong with you? Why would you say this stupid shit? So, Andrea, let's start with you. What's going on with Jerry?
I don't know. I'm with you, Dean. It makes me grating is the right word, and I am when I was like a huge Jerry Seinfeld fan. He's the reason I got into comedy.
Great comic.
Amazing. Like so sharp, so perceptive, and then to say garbage like this, it's like, what world are you living in? Like, are you just in a world where you're so removed from the realities of day to day that you can idolize these like ideal men and assume that that's not bad for it's almost a MAGA message at this point, saying like, let's go back to these like bro-y days where men didn't have emotions and they just ordered women around. And I don't know why is he saying? I know he started to be more outspoken after October 7th. I know he's promoting his movie, but like, is he getting senile in his old age? Is he just like is he like old people ramble now? Is that what's going on? Like, why tarnish a legendary reputation by revealing your personality? I just don't understand why. And if you've been able to be restrained for so long, right? And just put out art and leave it at that, I don't understand. Maybe he hired a new upstart PR person who doesn't know what they're doing.
Maybe. Paul, what do you think about, because it's interesting, this idea about when men were men, I like days before the Civil Rights Act, that kind of bullshit. Like, what are you getting at? Like, why would you literally said too, I know it's toxic, but I like a real man. I'm like, I'm not sure. I think there might be something deeper. Maybe he's trying to tell us something else, Paul.
I think his statements are a perfect premise for a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for Elaine to be like, Jerry, what the hell are you saying?
Yeah.
Like Kramer comes in and goes like, what do you do? What? Jerry, stop it. Stop with the toxic masculinity. And they're like,
I also think it's hilarious. Like the men that he uses, he said, Muhammad Ali, Sean Connery. And I'm like, didn't Sean Connery go on national television saying that it's okay to hit women?
Did he? I'm not sure. He did say Howard Cosell.
Bro. Did y'all see that?
No, I don't remember that.
He was on I think it was either the Tonight Show. I don't know what show he was on, but then he was like, yeah, if a broad gets out of line, it's okay to, slap around a little bit.
Really?
He just straight up said that on TV. Like,
what a role model.
And I'm 100% certain it was Sean Connery. It wasn't Will Ferrell as Sean Connery.
No, it wasn't.
It was Sean Connery. He made this statement. Like, y'all can look it up, and it's like, I think either two things are happening. Either I think celebrities are completely losing their way, and both these might be true, or Jerry is on a lot of TRT, and his just testosterone levels are just really high, and he's on some Andrew Tate energy.
Oh, I'm a real man. It's funny you mentioned the real men. He said Muhammad Ali, Sean Connery, and Howard Cosell. Like, no one would ever think of Howard Cosell in that same light. Like, but Howard Cosell had the famous interaction with Muhammad Ali, but didn't make him a tough guy. So we have 1 minute left. Nitha, what's your reaction? And then please plug whatever you want, or tell people where they can find your 10 million Twitter views that you had on your thing.
Where I cause trouble on Twitter or X.
Yeah.
To me at this point, like he and Bill Maher and all of that ilk to just go join MAGA, because that's essentially what they are. Like their talking points are oftentimes the same, exactly the same. So if you're saying the same stuff as Sean Hannity, that says a lot more about you than anything else. And another thing about Seinfeld, his wife donated all this money to, it was pro-Israeli protesters who I believe were UCLA, who may have been, counter protesters, who may have been responsible for attacking the pro-Palestinian protesters. So I hate, and he's constantly hanging out with Bari Weiss. He was hanging out with IDF soldiers, taking all kinds of pictures, crazy stuff. So I'm like, it's so sad, because to me, Seinfeld is one of my favorite shows of all time. And now I feel like I can't watch it. It's just been ruined.
You unpacked a lot there in that 1 minute.
Yeah.
So if people want to follow you and read your tweets and put things about getting you deported, where can they put that?
Nida Khan NY, so it's NIDAKHAN NY.
And my friend Andrea Jones-Rooy, where can people follow your work?
I am on Instagram and all the things at Jones-Rooy, JONESROOY. But there's nothing there yet, because I shall be reborn very soon with a data science revolution. So stay tuned.
Oh, great. Congratulations, Dr. Jones.
Thank
and Paul, what about you, my friend? Where can people follow you?
It is Paul Elia, ELIA comedy. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and my comedy special Detroit Player. Watch it for free on YouTube.
It's really funny, folks. Google Paul Elia, Detroit Player. You're going to have a lot of laughs. It was a beautifully shot special in Detroit. Great job. Congratulations. Thank all three of you for being on. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. We'll take a break.